So here is the new update. This is on an HD screen, 1980 by, or some people will say it's 1080p. Like if you have an HD monitor or an HD TV, this is what it would show up like. Generally, this is going to work for people who are working on their laptop or at their desk at the office. And what we've done here is rearrange this so that it would take better advantage of your larger screens so that you can get to things with fewer clicks. We also made it so that the chat over here is available in the sidebar. When you click on the chat here, it'll open it up and you can jump into your group and project chats right from here. And of course, just jump in and start chatting away. Once you're done chatting, you can go ahead and close that. We will have additional icons to go over here. One will be a daily calendar that is for you. Another will be an organization of your follow-up items that are specifically follow-ups that aren't scheduled, as well as the ones that are, and you'll be able to categorize them. And then we will have a dashboard that will come out about the same width that will show you as a manager or an owner who is clocked in and where their last location was, how many hours have they accrued, and information about, pardon me, about what they are clocked in. Sorry. So, really simple little change, but brings a lot more utility to the system. Moving into the middle here, we have a new icon that is available for owners. This is your performance dashboard. And it's only available when you're on the main project screen currently. We may be moving it over here to the right, not sure. But for now, you can click on it and it will bring up your performance. By default, it will show you the entire year. You can switch year to date to see how you're doing overall for the year, quarter to date, or month to date. Down here, we can see revenue. If you're connected to QuickBooks and it's tracking your invoices against your projects, you will see invoiced and paid show up down here as well. This is only going to be representative of the revenue that is tracked through this system. That said, you're going to see what you've estimated in, like, let's say the month of June, how much you've estimated in that month, and then how much you have contracted in that month. Only contracted means that you signed the contract in that month. Estimated means that you created that estimate in that month. So it's very possible that you have signed contracts for estimates that were in a prior month or even a prior year, but you're going to get credit for the signing of that contract in that month. Over here on the right, we break down how all this revenue breaks out by service. And this is using what you've put in your estimate to just give you an idea of just how much of your revenue is made up through the different items that you are doing. And you can switch between contracted and estimate by clicking on these two buttons here. When we go down here, you'll be able to see how your hours are breaking out, both how many hours you've contracted so far within the time period that you selected, how many of those hours you've scheduled on your calendar, how much you've logged, and how much has been billable. Logged means that people have recorded time against those. In general, this is going to be a big number, this is going to be a slightly smaller number, and so on. What could be concerning is if you have fewer hours contracted than you have scheduled, or you have more hours logged than you have scheduled or contracted, and far less billable. These numbers can kind of give you an idea of how well you're estimating, how well you're utilizing time, if you are under or overestimating potentially, or maybe you have staff that might be spending too much time. Over here, you can see how your staff breaks out overall between there. So you can see how many hours the person has scheduled, how much they've logged, and how much of the time that they've logged is billable. When we get down here, we get into touches. This whole section will be covered in more detail in a later video when we go over how to use the CRM more effectively for your direct marketing to like your referral sources and things like that. Then last but not least, down here we have our projects. And this gives us an idea of how well we're doing on our estimating versus getting signed. To understand this here, potential means that you have created an estimate for a project. You could create 3 estimates on a single project. It's only going to count as one possible potential. Then signed means the number of projects you've actually signed. The goal here is going to look at what your goal bind rate is, meaning how many do I want to sign 80% of what I generate. Well, according to this, 80% of 3 will be 2. And then we have a signed 2 here and a bind rate of 66.7 because we can see that we have 3 here, but we have only signed 66.67%. And it rounds it to the nearest whole number. One more number from our actual potentials would have put us over the 80%, which is why our goal is still sitting at 2. Completed and archived will keep track of the projects that you have marked completed and what you've marked archived within that month. So that's the real quick owner dashboard. You can switch to previous years if you have older data. Some of you have been with us for many years, and you'll be able to look at your year-over-year data. To get rid of it, you just click on that button again and it goes away. I find this incredibly useful. We've been using it here at our location for the last couple months, or at least I have, because I have early access to some of these features. And we've done a lot to try to tweak what it considers to be a potential, what it considers to be a signed contract, and so on. So this has been fairly well refined. The remaining buttons up here, in case you didn't know, this one is how you can bring up your search. In case you're on a tablet, you might not have this window open, and this could be one less click than clicking here and then clicking down into here in the menu. So that's one less click there. This is your filter to filter to your statuses. Your statuses here, if you think about an agile workflow, these are your swim lanes that you move your projects through. Rather than actually make swim lanes that each one of these moves through as a card, we've designed the system so that the swim lanes are outlined here, and this center bar here represents which swim lane it's in. In a future release, we were going to revamp this to where you can color code your statuses, and the entire top half or top 2/3 of the card will be taken up with that color and a treatment that looks nice. We're debating on whether or not you could put a project photo in that would be loaded in there. We're probably not going to do it. I think it's going to slow down this page load a little too much. Speaking of which, we enhanced this page to load much faster now. For those of you who really take advantage of being able to edit the most recent note that sits here and keep track of where your progress is on the projects, you might have noticed that the more photos that you add on there, the slower this page loads. And that's because it's having to go in and get all those photos for all 20 cards that it shows on your initial page load. So now what we've done is we've made it so that if you do upload photos attached to a note, it shows this here to show that there are photos attached, and you can click on it and it'll open up a modal for you that's full screen that you can then go through and look at your photos. We've fixed the issue where it wasn't always showing the photos in proportion. Sometimes, depending on the format that it was originated from, they were stretching. Now they show up. You can pinch and zoom on these on your mobile. And of course, on here, you can just click to zoom in and pan around. Once you're done, click on the little X, then click on close to go back to your main screen. Then we move over to the left. The left contains the majority of the updates that are inside the system right now, and that's where you're going to go to get to them. So let's start first by looking at the clock in and clock out system here. If I want to see what hours I've logged for the day, we've made a real quick, easy link right here to view today's logs. We'll go to that in a moment. But when I'm ready to start my day, I can click on clock in and I can see what is on today's schedule. So here I can see Nicole Raymer's Awesome Adventure in a consult is ready, is from 3 to 4 today. If I'm not scheduled on that and I don't want to see all the scheduled items, I can just turn this on and it'll hide any of the ones that I'm not scheduled on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Nicole's Awesome Adventure and do this consult. So I'm going to go ahead and click on travel. When I click on travel, all the information that is available about this shift now comes into here. So, and it makes it very concise because it's showing me the information that's relevant to the high level task that I'm selecting here. So when I pick travel, it went out and it got my GPS location based on where I'm at currently, and it's recorded that on this time entry. Every time I click on one of these, it separates them into separate time entries. So I will have a time entry for travel. When I click on admin, it will end my travel and it'll switch me into an admin time entry, and it'll switch me to a break and work. All the while, it is tracking it all to Nicole Raymer's project and assigning it, each one of these to the task or the budget for the consult. If I need directions, I can just click here and go down here and pick which directions I need, or I can just copy the address. If I need more details about this project, I can jump into the project just by clicking on the buttons here. So I can get additional info about the client that apparently has the name of Ukaj. That's my professional pronunciation of those letters. I could jump over the documents. I can also obviously get to the same places here, and you'll notice that as I switch, it's in sync between the two here. I can see all the notes. If there are any notes, I can see them here. And then I can also get more details about this shift. So by clicking on the button here, it'll open up the shift for me, and I can see all the information and any notes that were left about this shift that I need to pay attention to. So I've been traveling a while and now I'm there, so I'll go ahead and click on work, and that's going to switch me to this time entry where I am working, and it gives me this nice little animation over here. While I'm working, I might be going in to do an estimate, in which case I can jump over and I can either open an existing estimate that I started already or add a new one. Let's go ahead and work from the one that I have here. And you'll notice that we have some new items down here. In addition to the services and additional items, we now have this new section called mileage. Mileage may not be out on Friday. It may be a early July release because we want you to be able to invoice for it, and it's not in the invoice just yet. But let's go ahead and look at it really quick. When we do a mileage item, it brings up a worksheet for us. We can give it a name, and this is what's going to show up on our estimate. You can leave it just simply as mileage, and you can put in a short description. You can mark whether or not you're going to charge taxes for it in your area. You can pick which vehicle. Vehicles were created for each one of your users. We'll go over in more detail how you can add more vehicles and also set their billable rates. Let's just go ahead and say it's a personal vehicle for Brian. And we're going to say that we're going to do 5 trips. That's not an even number. There we go, 6 trips. And we can select the address from within the system, the origination or destination that the client has. So we'll say we're going to go from our office to their location 6 times. And I can click on the calculator and it'll go and it'll figure out what the distance is between these for me. And then it'll come up with the mileage there, and then the default rate here being $1. So now I have a mileage of $39.48 that I can add to my estimate to cover the cost of me going back and forth. And this should allow you to reimburse your employees and as well as cover your gas and insurance. Anyways, so now we have mileage and it gets added on to our estimates. There's another update that came along with this, and that is when we go into the print preview. You should be seeing this now, but just in case you hadn't noticed, we now updated this to where the gear is hidden by default. And if you turn some menu items on or off, it disables ones that you shouldn't be able to toggle on or off as a result. The other piece is the short descriptions now better align here, where it gets better grouped in here. So those are the changes, very minor, but very important changes to the estimate. We will be adding to the estimate before the end of the year a configuration up here at the top where you can toggle on range, and you can tell it to take your services and it will show the total, not just as a single line item, but a range. So, and you'll be able to set the percentage. So the low end could be 80% of the total here, and you can even set this total to have a higher end, where you could say in the top end should be 20% higher. So your range has a low, medium, and high. That will be coming later in the summer. Okay, so we were working on this. Now it's time for me to take a break. I'm going to take a quick break and relax, lay down and pet my little red kitty right there. And it's comfortable. I think 6 seconds is long enough to take a break. What do you think? Maybe 10. What is nice though is if I do jump to admin and I'm not in the project over here, I get access to the contacts. So I can go in here, and if they have phone numbers, get to their phone numbers. I can take notes and leave notes. I can record touches here really quickly. So I can jump in to the CRM and take care of things right from here without having to jump over to the project, go to the contact, and so on. And it's really quick. All right, so then I would travel back to our office, and then once I get there, I can click on clock out, and that will finish my shift for this. So up on top, it automatically summarizes everything for me for what I just did. So I'm clocking out of the Nicole Raymer's Awesome Adventure, her consult. Here it's listing out my travel, so I can put in a note about what the travel was. I haven't actually moved, so my mileage is 0, but I can always override what it is. We do keep track of what the original amount is, as well as what was overridden. I can change which vehicle I was driving, and I can also mark that I was a passenger, so I'm not looking to get reimbursement here. I can put in notes for every single one of these. If I need to, I can edit these. This view will probably be a little bit cleaner when it comes out on Friday. All right. Once I've put in all my notes and whatnot, let's go ahead and put in a few notes. So we'll say did estimate and consult. Relaxed in the van, because everybody does that. Followed up with client, and we'll go and put in a note about traffic was crazy. And we'll put some mileage in here. We'll say it was actually 8 miles back. And there we go. We'll hit submit. Now when we submit it, it puts it all into our logs for us. Now, if I'm back in the office and I'm going to work on some other work, I can go ahead and click on clock in and go over to unscheduled. So like anytime you're doing admin work or anything like that around the office, you can jump over to unscheduled and just say, I'm doing admin. And it's going to bring up generic admin here for you. And you can record that. And it's not tied to any project or anything. It's just going to be generic time that you're working for the company that isn't necessarily billable against anything else. But let's say it is something that you are doing for a project, but you just don't have a shift for it. Well, you can click on the attach a project. Now I'm going to click on this and it's going to show up in this little box. But when this gets released on Friday, this little box will actually open up in a full screen window, so it's easier to navigate. It'll open up. We can start typing into the search, and you'll see one of the reasons why. We're going to move it to a modal, and we're going to do this for maybe Janine. See how hard that is to read? So that's why we're moving it into a modal. When I pick a project, it's going to look at the estimate for that project for me, and it's going to list out all the top level buckets that I can build things into. So we'll just say this is, we're working on planning the move. But you'll notice that there's these other three down here. These other three down here are services that get added onto every project that aren't a part of an actual estimate. So you have other billable, other non-billable, and marketing and sales. These are the three that we've made for everyone by default. You can create additional ones if you would like to put on there, including like training, onboarding, whatever additional services that you might be doing behind the scenes that aren't necessarily billed to the client, but they're things that you need to do on every single project, like Gopher, running to the dump, things like that. All right, so we're just going to pick planning the move for now, though. So now this is on Janine and Kelly's move, and I've assigned it to this project. You can see that under admin, we have Booger Boy, who is the contact on here. So I can jump in here and I could say, okay, I was just doing a phone call with Booger Boy, and I'll go ahead and give it a rank of 5. He's doing great. And I'll just take some notes while I'm on the phone with him. Needs us to drop off some boxes. We'll go ahead and create that. And because there is a task associated with it, I'll go ahead and jump over here, do a follow-up with him and say drop off boxes. And it's already attached it to Booger Boy here. And I'm just going to do it as a meeting. I can change these types in the system settings. I'll go ahead and add an address. If there's already addresses on this contact, it will find them, and I can select which address it is. This particular one doesn't have any addresses, so I'll just go ahead and put in 299 South State. Okay, and then I'll set the time. I can choose, let's just go ahead and make it 10 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning. And you'll notice that it automatically updated this one for me so that it stayed within an hour. I can put in some descriptions here. Leave on the porch. And I'm going to ask Brian Greenwood to do that. And if I'm connected to my Google Calendar, it would actually send an invite to Brian Greenwood to do this follow-up. And over here, I can see whether or not that person has accepted it. Well, that's a lot of good admin work. It's been a good day. I'm ready to go ahead and call it the end. And I'll go ahead and click on clock out. So here I can see that I worked from 10:56 to 11 p.m. for a whole 4.43 minutes. Ooh, I really killed it today. I'll put in a note, talked with Booger Boy. You can make the notes fairly long if you need to. It, by default, will make them really short and sweet, but you have plenty of room to type in there. If I want to see my logs that I've done for today, I can click on View Today's Logs. And I'll jump over into the Team Time section where I can see I have date filters where I could say just for today, which is the one that loads by default when I come from here. I could say this week. I could say this and last week, go all the way down to even last year. I can also see down here, right there, it's outlining which one, which view I'm looking at. But I can put in a custom date and like say to the 21st, and I'll say custom date range there. So let's just go back to today, and we can see the records here. Now, this is another one of those views that we've updated for the view on a desktop and also the mobile view is more concise and easier to view as well. So up here, I can minimize this and I can just see the overall time for me within this date range. So I've logged 0.15 hours, I've tracked 0.4 of them, none of it's billable, and I have 13 miles on my docket. The billable time and such is going to be determined by how you have your services set up. So these totals may be different for you depending on what's going on. But here we can see we have the project, what task, so travel, work, break, and so on, and how much was logged, how much was tracked, and what the mileage was, and any notes that were left on it here. If I want, I can edit these. Now, this I know is probably, yeah, this one. So right now, the scheduled and unscheduled are being resolved tomorrow, but we can see if I jump into, let's go into a unscheduled one here. We'll edit that one. You can see it shows the project here, which task type was selected, and its start and end time, and then the note that I left. Switch it to travel. And when I do that, I can put in my starting and ending address here. So like 299, and then my ending address. And then I can tell it to calculate the mileage, and it'll put it up here, and I can select which vehicle, or if I was a passenger, and then update the note. And then once I have this in, it'll replace it with a map, which is nice. And it'll show the path that I drove and the estimated mileage. So that's the update here. The next piece is availability. Availability is going to be in a new spot. So it used to be that you would go under here for like your time card and so on. These right here will be that my time logs and my time card are moving completely out of here into time and schedule. Under time and schedule, depending on your permission, you're going to be able to set the default availability for your location. You can also update your own availability right through here. The My Time card has been replaced with the View Today's Log, so that will be going away. Then we have My Time Logs, which is this right here. And then the Team Time Logs is if you have that permission, you can see the time logs for the entire team. And then if you're set as a person who approves time off requests, you'll see this here. Let's go ahead and jump into location availability real quick. And here on the left-hand side, we can see the general availability for the location. So Sunday, we're not open. Monday, 9 to 5. Same for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Saturday, we're not available. You can click on the edit icon here, and you can add additional intervals. So let's say we're actually open from 9 to 12, and then from 1 to 5. So we're closed between 12 and 1. I know places that do that. Once we're done, we just click on that, and we can see our hours have been adjusted here. Whenever we go and we create new staff and invite them, it's going to use this as the basis for the default time range that it says that they need to be available, which you'll be able to customize. Over here, we can put in additional changes. So we can see that we've made it a company-wide day off on December 25th. We can put in additional items, let's say July 3rd, and we're also going to do July 4th. There we go. We're going to add time off. We're going to say it's from, well, basically all day. So we'll say from 12 a.m. to 11:45. We'll add that as time off, and then down here we will add this one for the whole day. There we go. Then we go ahead and click apply. And now we're closed July 3rd through the 4th from 12 a.m. to 11:45. Pretty easy, nifty. You can also filter up here, so you can change the date. By default, it's only going to show you dates in the future, but you can modify that so that you can look at previous dates. You can jump over if you have location availability. You can also see staff availability under here. So very similar settings. You can see their standard hours and then any changes that they've requested off. It's automatically going to show the ones for the company here. And then over here, if anyone has made requests that need to be approved, you can see them come through on here, and we can mark to approve them or decline them. If you decline a request, you can put in a reason here, and it gets sent to the person who is requesting it. They also receive a notice that it's received approval. This only applies to people that you have designated require approval, and this can be for time off or time on. So we can see normal availability down here of what they're asking time off from 10:30 to 12:30, and their normal availability is 9 to 5. We may be adding in here a view that would be horizontal of what all is scheduled that day to make it easier for you to understand what that impact is. There are actions over here where you can approve or decline the individual requests as opposed to all of them. You can also filter up here to say, I just want to look at Brian's requests. I just want to look at Demo's requests and Drew and so on. Under my availability, this will be available to all staff. This is where they can go in here, and just like we did for the location, they can request a change here. They could say, I would really love to have the 5th off as well. And up here, they can see what their standard availability is for that day. So we're just going to say we're going to request time off from 9 because it's showing that we start at 9. And it'll only allow us to select up to 5 o'clock because that's our normal availability. So I'm asking off the whole day and click apply. Now, Brian, requires approval. So this is pending availability change request. So as they get approved, it will show up. Anything that I've put in here, like I want additional time on June 29th, it'll show that in here too, and that also needs to be approved. Anything that, if I want, I could go in here and remove a request unless it's been through the process. So that's availability. My time card will be going away. We've covered these here. Time off requests. This is just a quick link to that same screen we saw earlier. We can tell it to show the reviewed requests or pending. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at some of the new owner settings real quick. When we go into here, we're going to, if you haven't noticed it before, goals is in here, and this is where you can put in your amounts that you want to do for like 2024. You can also choose a different year in the past or up into the future so that you can set next year's goals if you would like. You can set goals for your estimating and contracting. If you have it connected to QuickBooks, you'll see invoicing and paid, and this will show up as line references up against your bar charts. What your target bind rate is, and then what your touch quality and your touch goals are for your marketing. Project statuses and such have been moved up under this menu now. When we go in and we look at our services now, and when we see here, we have our estimate services, and then we have our non-estimate services. These are those internal tasks that we were talking about. You can see down here, I was creating a test with one called Bob, where I can go in and edit The internal service, you can set the order, you can give it a name, whether it's active or not, what your budgeted hourly rate is for it, and how many hours you want to budget for it. In future, you'll have some additional options in here. You can mark it as billable so that this hourly rate can be applied if someone is recording time and you eventually want to bill your client for it. So like if you don't do free consults, you could put the consult in here as a automatic service that comes into the system that the client's not signing off on, and it gives you a bucket that you can bill against. And you can create as many new ones as you like. Right now, if you do it just in the same way that you can tell it that you are creating a parent service, you will see one that says create internal non-estimate service. But for now, go ahead and mark it as a parent. We'll give it a name of paid consult. Go ahead and create that. And then we'll toggle the non-estimate on here. And then we can update paid consult, set our hourly rate. Let's say it's 65, and we're going to give it a budget of 2 hours, which will include our travel time. So there we go. Now if we come down here, we can see paid consult is here. Now these get added to new projects. They don't get added on to old projects. They get added on to projects that are new going forward. So you won't see these available on old projects, but you will see them on new ones. Let's go ahead and look at staff. Your staff have new options under here. Everything has been reorganized for you. So you have active, website, and order like you did before, but you notice that it's all in this nice organized box now. Their location role you're familiar with, but you can choose between what kind of employee they are now, whether they're full-time, W-2 flex, or contractor. If they are full-time or W-2 flex, you can put in their hire date. If they are a contractor, you can put in their contract start date, their end date, and then who negotiated that contract. We'll leave them at W-2 flex. When they're a W-2 flex, you can give them the option of defining their own weekly hours and whether or not their time off requires an approval. Down here, we can see what their normal hours are. And again, by default, it's going to pick up on what the company has when you first create them. You can modify their normal hours just like before. And here you can see all the change requests that have been approved. And if there aren't any pending, you'd be able to see those here. You can put in specific days off here for them as well. You can do performance reviews. Now, under our location settings, you can create the categories of a performance review. So here we've set when the next review is going to be. In a future release, not this one, you'll be able to click on this to set it on the calendar. But right now what it does is it sends a notification to the person who is marked as the reviewer of when that's going to be. So if we click on this one, we can click to view it. And we can see what their review came out to be. When the date was, the notes. This is your review, Yippets. What their overall score is, and it'll calculate this for you based on the categories that you've ranked them on. How did they do on punctuality, any skill, balancing professionalism, and so on. These are default ones that we've given to you, and you can put in your own under there or get rid of any of the ones that we have. You can see that they are receiving a 1% change in their compensation. And down here, it shows what that means to their actual hourly rate. So it's an increase of 33 cents per hour for this individual. And then here it puts in the effective date for the pay rate. And what it did is it updated their pay rate in the system on this date to these amounts for me automatically. Speaking of which, down here I can designate how I want them to be paid. So I could say it is a fixed rate, meaning that I have one rate that I pay them, and I can make that rate the same across all the different high-level tasks. That's what these are: the work rate, the travel rate, the admin rate, and the travel minutes. We'll get back to that. Work rate, travel rate, admin rate, and break. And then days that they take off, you have a paid time off rate that you can specify. The unpaid travel minutes per day. So if you do not have a brick and mortar office that your employees come to every day, you could mark how far they would have to travel to come to your home office if they are a W-2 employee or W-2 flex. If they're a contractor, technically they work from home and their mileage is billable right from the moment they leave their home office. But not to get down that rabbit trail, you can put in here up to between 0 and an hour of unpaid travel time per day. And what this will do is whenever they mark travel on their timekeeping, it's not going to include the first 15 minutes of travel per day in their payable minutes on your timesheet export for whenever you're doing pay. So that helps you calculate that up. In general, what we would do is we would say, you live here, our office is here, it would take you 15 minutes to travel here, so the first 15 minutes of travel that you do in the day is not paid. Then down here, permissions, there is only one new permission, and let me see here, right here, team time on and off requests. So here you can give them permission on that now. That is a new one. Whenever you do require approval, let's go back up here, you can designate who the approvers are. So right now, the only person who has permission to do reviews is Brian Greenwood. The more people you give this permission down here to do requests, you can assign those here. So, and what happens is when someone creates a time off request, the people that you've assigned under here will receive that request, a copy of it. The only other update to this section is whenever you go to invite a new staff member, let's do r@r.com. You have more of the settings that are in the system to go ahead and set here. So now you can set their rates, what their availability, so it's going to use the default availability otherwise, and you can see it's picked up on the change that we made to the location, saying that they need to be from 9 to 12 and so on, and you could go in and you can change these or remove them as needed. Then down here you can set their permissions, and they're more set up so that when they accept the invite, you don't have to go back into the system and make changes for them. Let's go ahead and look under our location settings now. When we look at our location settings, you're going to see that vehicles has been added here. When we look at vehicles, everyone who is a user in your system automatically gets one. You can add one here. So like we could put one in here and call it the moving truck. You can select an owner and set it as the company. Non-reimbursable miles per day, we'll say 0. Reimbursement per mile, we'll put 0 because this is a company vehicle. And free billable miles, we'll say 0. And billable rate per mile, let's say it's $1.25 per mile. We'll go ahead and create that. And now we have the moving truck that people can select that they are taking out, and you're going to get the mileage tracked for your vehicle along with your employee's time all at the same time. It's going to be great. So that's vehicles. Then like we had before, here we go, performance categories. As I mentioned, these are the categories that everyone has by default. You can go in and edit these. It's very simple, and you can create new ones just by clicking here and put in a new category. Let's see, I believe that's the only other big change in there. project statuses, services, staff. Okay, so that's the main big changes. There are changes to other parts of the system like invoices and whatnot, but I'm going to do a full video on the invoice changes so that you can get more in depth. But overall, that's the big changes here. The next two videos are going to be on invoicing and scheduling. So hopefully this one didn't overwhelm you. It's a whole 46 minutes. I would recommend watching this at a slightly faster pace. I tell you that at the end instead of the beginning. So now that you've watched the whole thing, go back and watch it again really fast. All right, so next video is going to be on scheduling, and the one after that will be the invoicing. All right.